Oh, my apologies, everyone. We had some technical issues, but we're going to just keep on talking as our other panelists jump back into the Hangout. Misty, we were talking about, what were we talking about? Summer and how you spend your summers? Okay.
So for summers for us, they're really beautiful here in Maine. It's the only really nice time to be outside. So we do a lot of things outside for unit studies. We do things, for nature and experiments that are too messy to do in the house. We take them outside on the deck or out by the water. My kids love doing outdoor things. So in the summer, I try and plan all of our outside activities so that, the experiments are done out of my kitchen so I don't have to clean up messes. And they can still be enjoying the sunshine. They also take any of their bookwork out on the deck. They usually take like a TV tray with them and in their chairs, and they sit out on the deck and do their school in the sunshine then. So we basically do the same things that we do the other times of the year. We just try and do it outside more.
Okay, great. Leah, you have any thoughts about summertime and how you use that time wisely?
Yes, we also like to do unit studies. I try to do some literature-based unit studies in the summer. I like lap books that go along with them. Unlike Misty, we can't really go outside that much because it's so hot, but we can enjoy doing different experiments. Like she was saying, we enjoy doing some extra science kind of stuff in the summer. We also have two local museums. We have a small nature museum, and then we have a larger science museum not too far away, and we alternate each year buying a family membership so that we can take time when it's so hot outside to go and visit one of the local museums.
Okay, thanks. Let's talk about what do you guys think about letting kids have a total break during summer? I mean, a lot of you are talking about, kids need to keep studying and you want to avoid that summer slide, but can anybody make a case just for letting kids have a lazy, a really long 4, 6, maybe even 8-week break where they just totally just veg? Anybody want to make a case for that?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So, so along with the weather, I like to let my kids sort of fashion their day. They're going to get into something, and I don't find a whole lot of lazy going on. There's a lot of pouring into something that they're really into, and it might change from time to time, or maybe they've got plans. It's not like when my kids were smaller and I felt like I need to orchestrate their time all the time because they were little and they would get bored or cranky or whatever. My kids aren't like that anymore, and so a small change will make a big difference for them, and so letting them have that downtime is really important.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a proponent of giving kids time to do what they want to do, which I think playing outside is super important. And I love the summertime for letting kids just run wild outside. And of course, that's assuming you live in an environment where that's possible. I know that's not always possible for everyone, but I love summer for that. I have great memories myself as a kid, going barefoot and catching fireflies. And I think that should be a part of every child's childhood, to have those lazy summer days of doing nothing. I think every child should have at least some time to do that. And some of you may integrate that in. You may have a month of school and you may take a week break, and that's how you get it. Do you think it's okay to switch schedules? And how do you do that? Let's say there's a mom who has always been on a traditional schedule and she wants to switch to a more year-round schedule because she sees the benefits of it. What are some ways she can make that transition smooth? Maybe some of you have done that, can speak to it.
I did that. I started off following traditional schedule, probably because I didn't know any better. As a new homeschooler, I hadn't heard of schooling year-round, and I tried that. And for us, we were in a lot of different transitions. I was, getting divorced. We were adjusting to schooling. We were moving, and all of those things. And so when I kind of heard about year-round schooling, I didn't announce to my children, hey, we're switching schedules, because my boys are young, so they don't really pay attention to things like that. But I just kind of took almost like what we kind of recommend if you're pulling your kids out of school. You just kind of take some time to kind of catch your breath and figure out a plan. So we had traditionally taken the entire summer off. And so what I did was when we picked, following school year, I just started the new 6 on, 1 week off, and it worked really well. For us, I had issues like I think we've talked about, and we were chatting a bit about it being the age, and for my boys, they are still kind of in that training stage of not being bored and not fighting and not kind of freaking out because they've got too much free time, and so it just flowed really nice for us to be able to go right into year round. They actually liked it. They liked having things to do. It gave some kind of structure to the day. But for my boys, we're done with school by lunchtime, so they always have their afternoons free. So they didn't really feel like they were losing, like that summer free time to go and do whatever because they still had it.
That's a really good point, LaToya, and I would think that would be an advantage of year-round homeschooling is that you are maybe having shorter periods of the day dedicated to schooling because of the way you're spacing it out. So that's a really good point, and then your kids are going to daily get that time for play. Other thoughts about year-round schooling or traditional schedules? Missy, did you have a chance to share about your planner? Is that while I was gone you did that?
I think you were still here. I mentioned it briefly, but it may have been when you were frozen. It may have been right at that breaking point.
Okay.
I did share about the planner, though, yeah.
Okay,
And
excellent.
like LaToya said, my kids, today my kids were up doing school at 7 a.m. and they were done by like 9:30. So my kids are, being on the year-round schedule, they know the earlier they get up and get moving and get started, the earlier they're going to be done, and they have all day long to play. So that is the one really nice thing about year-round homeschooling, because you can spread out your curriculum so much better over 365 days versus, cutting out those 3 months in the summer.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense, and I think it reflects how we like to work. I mean, don't we all like to work a little and rest a little and work a little and rest a little? And there are people that have this intense concentration and they just like to work nonstop on something, but those kind of people are pretty rare. Most people like to work and rest and work and rest. So it does seem to make more sense to have those breaks. I think the key for year-round homeschooling, and the only danger I would be concerned about, is that parents get it in their mind that there are no breaks. We're constantly schooling, and that's not what we mean by year-round schooling. We mean you are taking breaks, shorter, more frequent breaks that are mixed into the schedule versus this huge, long summer break. So it's more about when you're taking breaks, not the amount of the breaks. Although you might be more efficient and be able to
While Jimmy's on break, I think I'll come in and say that we've always done a traditional school year, but we've had a lot of chronic illness with my 16-year-old this year. So he's had Lyme disease in the fall, and he's been unable to do a lot of his work. And so this year he's going to be kind of keep on going. So sometimes your circumstances dictate how you're going to do school. And so you can switch kind of on a dime. It doesn't always have to be a big plan that you're going to do that. The other thing I was going to mention earlier is that depending on how you report for your state, that can also kind of tell you how you're going to do your school. Here in New York State, we report quarterly, and it doesn't mean that you can't do year-round schooling, but it does mean that you have to adjust how you're reporting. So I think that can influence people as well, depending on where they are. Tisha, did you want to share something about some curriculum?
I did. We were talking about scheduling and how to make it work, and in the transition I lost saying this when we were talking about it, but we talked about one thing that helps me is Illuminations, which is kind of the Bright Ideas Press scheduler. It goes through and just breaks your schedule down into weeks for you, and for someone like me who is not naturally organized, it can be really helpful if you're doing a year-round schedule, because it just goes through and breaks it down into weeks, and you just go, okay, the last week we completed was week 24. I just need to switch it to week 25, and boom, add in my extra notes of the random things we're going to do, and then we're good. and it's a lot easier to not lose track of where you are and what you still have left to do. So, Latoya, you had something you were going to say?
Yeah, back on the first event page, somebody was asking about how do you handle moving forward grade level wise. I think her question was, do you just let your child move forward when they're, when you're done, if you're schooling, year round? And I know for us, my kids are kind of all over the map grade level. If you want to go through that anyway, I think that's probably a common thing with kids, especially homeschoolers. And so for us, if my son is in third grade and has finished his third grade math work for the year, I don't just tell him, you're done with math. We just keep moving forward for the next thing. And because we school year round, I don't have to go through like the first few sets of lessons that are a review from the previous level. So that's kind of how we handle things here. Does anybody do anything different? Or maybe Heather, how do you handle it? Because I know you don't school year round.
Right, so we're kind of old school around here. My kids are the grades they're in and they know it regardless of what curriculum they might be using or what grade level they might be using. It's kind of like the countdown to graduation. So we just kind of stick with those conventions just because, I'm a school teacher and it just makes sense to me, along with making sure my kids can write their name at the top of the paper, because someday they're going to go get their learner's permit to drive, and the lady, when they turn it in, is going to say, who are you? So just those little things we try to, make sure our kids can do along the way. I'm thinking we can probably just go with some summary statements. What do you guys think about that? What is your most favorite thing about maybe the way that you do school?
I think my favorite thing about year-round homeschooling is the ability to take the day off whenever I want. I don't have a tight schedule. I plan things out a month at a time in detail, but I allow myself to change that up whenever I want. So if I can tell my kids need a day off and it wasn't planned in, then I don't have to stress about not having enough days for the state or whatever. I just know that I can make it up somewhere else along the way. So that is my favorite part, is being able to take off whatever day I want, whenever I want.
I was going to say, I think my favorite thing about year-round homeschooling that has really helped our home has been that it, like Misty was saying, you can take time off when you need it. And for us, I have seen that really helps us to avoid burnout a lot more than in the past, because we know we are going to have a week where we are not going to be pulling out the books and going over math facts and hitting the books really, really hard. It helps us to push through. And I also have noticed that usually around the 6th week of whatever we're working on is about the time when we're kind of getting restless and we need to do things. So avoiding burnout really has been probably the main benefit that I've seen so far, which helps make the school year more enjoyable for all of us.
For us, I would have to kind of agree with everyone of the flexibility. One of the big things that I enjoy is we'll have like this big super, we're going to get lots of super school type stuff done, the workbooks and the writing and stuff, and then the next week we'll just do hands-on stuff and do an entire week of creating big, huge Roman projects that take up our entire kitchen and I have to mop every day. So that's what I love.
I have to agree with everyone as well. Just the flexibility and being able to take breaks when we're getting stressed and when things aren't going right. One of the things I had wanted to mention before was that similar to what Jimmy was saying, and how when her daughter was younger, they were more, informal in the way they approached their lessons, but now as her daughter has aged, they've become more scheduled, and that's a lot how we have become as well. When my children were young, we did a lot of just free exploring, nature walks, and nothing real formal. no, sit-down lessons with textbooks or anything. But now that they're older and in middle school, they are getting more involved in co-ops and classes outside of the home where we have a tutor or someone that's working with them. And so we have to, schedule our school day around those extracurriculars, if you will. But they're also becoming more independent, and so, I still